Welcome back to our channel, Retired and Loving It. Today, we're at a national historic site. I'm Terry.
And I'm Keith.
Today, we're at the site of the Battle of Corydon. The Battle of Corydon was the only Civil War battle fought on Indiana soil and occurred on July the 9th, 1863, when 450 members of the Harrison County Home Guard attempted to delay General John Hunt Morgan's 2,400 Confederate soldiers on that day, in hopes that Union reinforcements would arrive and stop Morgan's march through southern Indiana. The historic battle was fought here on these grounds. The history in our hometown is amazing.
There was a battle that was fought here between the Home Guard of Corydon and General John Hunt Morgan, who was a Confederate officer. He had come across the river down here at Brandenburg with over 2,000 hardened Confederate soldiers. They had commandeered 2 steamboats by acting like they were in distress. And first they got the one, then they sent the one steamboat out the middle, flying the distress flag, and they got the second, and that's how they got their horses and their men and their cannons across. So the Home Guard of Corydon in that time had telegraphed to New Albany for reinforcements. There were troops in New Albany, but General John Hunt Morgan had a gentleman with him they called the Professor, and he could imitate a telegraph. So he actually telegraphed that Morgan was headed to Louisville and definitely not going to Louisville. So poor Colonel Jordan did not get the reinforcements he needed. But it took place right behind the cabin here. They had a barricade, the hill drops down into Corydon. There were 3 main roads that bottlenecked right here. So this is where he to make a stand. But after 30 minutes, obviously they were overwhelmed, and he flew the white flag. Morgan then proceeded to capture a bunch of them and take them down into the town of Corydon, put them in the square, take their boots, their horses, their guns, anything worth taking. The women of Corydon actually took the Confederate soldiers that had been injured, put them right next to their own, made a makeshift hospital in the Presbyterian church that's still in the square today, and took care of those men. And Morgan's sitting up at the Kintner house, still on the historic bed breakfast registry. The next morning, Miss Sally Kintner, the innkeeper's daughter, took great enjoyment in letting him know Gettysburg had fallen. So at that point, he wasn't so happy any longer. He got his men together and he kind of burned and pillaged and plundered all the way up.
The cabin was built in 1840, 20 years before the Civil War.
It's been moved actually once before. The gentleman that built it left it to his younger son, Amos. And Amos had a fiance named Medora, and she did not like where the cabin was. So he actually took the cabin apart, numbered it with Roman numerals. You can see them on this side of the cabin. And put it back together at a location of her choice, and so it's been moved twice.
The Roman numerals on the logs.
Amos Lemon, son of John, that built the cabin in the 1840s, he got the cabin when his dad passed away, but he was engaged to marry Medora Sonner, and she didn't like where the cabin was. So I told you, he moved it. He put the Roman numerals on it so he could put it back together the right way. And they had 2 children. and their descendants lived in here till 1975. At one point, they covered the cabin up with clapboard and storm windows because it was not cool to live in a cabin. That was around the 30s and 40s. But about the 60s, log cabins were back in vogue, so it was all stripped off again. And 1975, the last descendant moved out.
This is a musket ball found on the property that had been fired. There's a trail on the property that you can walk. I was so concerned about stepping on a snake that this turtle nearly scared me to death. I don't recommend wearing flip-flops. It's a pretty brutal trail. Thanks so much for joining us today, guys, at the Battle of Corydon Park. Wow, so much history here.
Guys, the history here is unbelievable. If you're ever in Corydon, you must put this on your bucket list. This is an awesome place. So much history here in Corydon, Indiana.
If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button and give us a big thumbs up. We'll see you next time on Retired and Loving It.